Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. These associates, headed by Sananda and other chief associates, and accompanied by all the predominating deities of the various planets, offered prayers to the Lord, who wore a brilliant helmet, bracelets, and glittering earrings that resembled fish. On the Lord's bosom was a lock of hair called Srivatsa, and on the transcendental jewel named Kustuba. He wore a yellow garment covered by a belt, and he was decorated by a flower garland surrounded by bees. Manifesting himself in this way, O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities are wonderful, covered the entire surface of the earth with one footstep, the sky with his body, and all directions with his arms. Purport. One might argue, since Bali Maharaj promised Vamanadev only the land occupied by his footsteps, why did Vamanadev occupy the sky also? In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami says that the steps include everything downward and upward. When one stands up, he certainly occupies certain parts of the sky and certain portions of the earth below his feet. Thus, there was nothing uncommon for the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he occupied the entire sky with his body. Om Jnanatimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshushamritam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapatantikam Shri Uttara Badakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Guru Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasti Gaura Bhaktavinda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Ramine Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I finally get there. A lot of verses. So we finally get to the point where Vamanadev takes his first step. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that interesting point, there was nothing uncommon for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm going to kind of speak on this point today. Of course, there's nothing uncommon for the Supreme Lord as far as the devotees are concerned. Because we understand or at least to a certain point, we understand his activities. I was thinking, trying to explain this to people of other faiths or non-devotees, it can be quite daunting sometimes, you know. You see these activities, how Krishna just manifests his huge form, the Virata Rupa. And sometimes we are subjected to opposition, sometimes quite aggressively. I remember when I was on Sankirtan many years ago as a brahmachari, I was in Aylesbury. You might still go there. I haven't been there for a while. And I remember quite often there'd be the Sankirtan devotees, and you'll have the Muslims selling their Qurans on their table. I remember being approached by at least two of them, and they were quite aggressive. Immediately they said, which is what they usually say, you Hindus, how can you worship a form? You say that God has a form and you worship it. This is complete nonsense. So in response, I would say, first of all, we're not Hindus, brother. Because you've got to say, brother. And secondly, I agree with you, God doesn't have a form. Because in this kind of situation, it's sometimes good to agree with him, at least superficially, at least to begin with. And so it calms them down a little bit. At least he doesn't have a form, at least like ours. He doesn't have a material form. He has a completely transcendental spiritual form, full of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anade Ade Govinda Sava Karana Karanam. He is Govinda, and His form is eternity, bliss and knowledge, not mundane like our form. And he is the origin of everything. He has no other origin. He is the Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the prime cause of all causes. So when they hear this, they can't really argue with it, can they? Then they may try. But the part I didn't explain to them was that God does also have a material form. But of course I wasn't going to get into this because they weren't ready to hear it. And his material form is the Virata Rupa. It's explained that this Virata Rupa form of the Supreme Lord is temporary, just like the cosmic manifestation, and is destroyed at the point of the destruction of the cosmic world. But at the same time, this form is coming from Krishna's internal potency. So how do we understand this? Something which is coming from Krishna's internal potency, which is temporary. So in the Brahma Samhita it says that the Mahamaya is a shadow of the Chit potency of the Supreme Lord. Krishna's Yogamaya energy expands in the material world as the Achit potency, or Durga. And Durga means fort or prison house, and it's her duty to keep the living entities within the prison house of the material world, in this fort, because she doesn't want the conditioned souls to interfere with the internal potency, with Krishna's pastimes, with his pure devotees. So it's her duty to keep us here. So in that sense, the Virata Rupa is manifesting from an internal potency, but through Achit Sakti, Durga, which makes it temporary. So Krishna comes on this planet for various reasons, as we know, to have loving pastimes with his devotees, to kill the demoniac, and to re-establish religious principles. And in order for Krishna to re-establish religious principles, he also has to establish his authority as the supreme. And in the previous verses, it's been described, Ham Savashya Prabhavo, Mataha Sarvam Pravartite, Iti Matva Bhajantima Buddha Bhava Samana Vitaha. Krishna is the cause of everything, spiritual and material. Everything's emanating from him. So that fact has already been established. So in order to re-establish religious principles, he has to establish his authority. Otherwise, foolish people will just take him as an ordinary personality. You know, Krishna came down, he was a charismatic character, he had 16,108 wives, he was a bit lusty, right? They say that, the Mayavadi, the rascals. Krishna says, Avajananti mam mudha, that the fools deride me when I descend in a human form. They do not know my transcendental nature, or my supreme dominion over all. So this is what so Krishna has to establish. So he shows his opulences by doing this. And this Virata Rupa is Krishna showing all his opulences, everything within the universe. Because most religions these days are impersonal, Mayavadi. So anyone can really appreciate the beauty of the world. Like lately, when you walk to the morning program, in the mornings you look up in the sky and you see the sky's being clear, and you can see the stars in the sky and the moon, and it looks very beautiful. And if anyone's got any sense, immediately they will think, well, there must be some higher intelligence. Just like when you see the Himalaya mountains. I've never been there, but I've always wanted to go. Shriram's been there 3 times and he's always been asking me let's go to the Himalayas, but I've never been able to go. But one day I will go, by Krishna's mercy. So when you see something like the Himalayas, I was speaking to someone in Sankirtan, and he said he saw the Himalayas and immediately thought, there must be a God. Otherwise, how else can you have something so amazing? And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, of all immovable things, I am the Himalayas. So anything great on this planet, that is Krishna. And even as devotees, when we see amazing things, when you look up into the sky and you see the stars, how can you not think of Krishna? When you see the moon, how can you not think of Krishna? When you see the sun, immediately you think of Krishna. It's natural, because we understand that He is the source of everything. Everything in this spiritual world, everything in this material world is but the energy of the Supreme Lord. So in one sense it's non-different. Just like the example given, you cannot separate the energetic from the energy. The energy comes from the energetic source, it's similar. So anyone with a little bit of intelligence can understand this point. Krishna doesn't reveal his Virata Rupa even to anyone. He reveals it to his devotees first, like Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And here to Bali Maharaj. And who else did he reveal Virata Rupa to? Duryodhana? Yeah? Anyone else? Huh? Narada Muni? Chaitanya Leela, yeah, who did he? Chaitanya, you must know that. Dvaitacharya. So we can see Krishna is revealing, he reveals this Virata Rupa to the devotees. And it says in the Bhagavad Gita that it wasn't just Arjuna that saw the Virata Rupa, many other personalities also saw it, like here also. The demons saw, and the devotees saw, but they saw something, the demons saw something different to what the devotees saw. The demons were afraid, because to them, the Virata Rupa is something fearful, it's something which is going to take all their opulence away, which is ultimately death. Because Krishna also shows his death form in that. So therefore, we're fearful that Krishna is going to take everything away from me. Whereas the devotees, they may also be a little bit fearful. Arjuna was fearful to begin with when he saw it, but later on he became struck with wonder and awe. And his relationship with Krishna changed. Because again, this is Krishna showing his superiority even to Arjuna, because Arjuna was a friend to Krishna to begin with. He's on that level. He was sitting on the same bed. He was, and then after Krishna showed his Virata Rupa, Arjuna's mood changed towards Krishna. His mood now was of disciple and spiritual master. Because you cannot have a friendship mood with your spiritual master. It's offensive. So his mood completely changed. And he was actually lamenting, oh, in the past I was thinking that you were on the same level as me, we were sitting on the same bed, I was shouting, oh friend, oh Krishna, you know, like you do to a friend, oh, come here, you know, fancy saying that to Krishna. But Arjuna was saying that, so he, after seeing the Virata Rupa, he felt embarrassed. But it was necessary. But to the devotees of Vrindavan, like Mother Yashoda, he also showed his Virata Rupa, right? She looked in his mouth and she saw everything. But before that, she didn't think that Krishna is God. She was just thinking that Krishna is my son. And then, but Krishna covers the devotees with Yoga Maya potency, the curtain, and then He drew that curtain so she could see everything. And then what did she see? She saw everything. She saw the whole universe, the planets. She saw Krishna. She even saw herself looking in Krishna's mouth. So the universal form is difficult to see. But even more difficult to see is the form of Krishna, it's explained. That is even more difficult because Krishna is not so readily available to anyone and everyone. Yeah, so we have to purify ourselves, and we have to approach a devotee in order to see Krishna. Yeah, and this is what approaches of Bhakti Yoga. To have faith. Yeah, you can only see Krishna with faith. There's an interesting story about the cobbler and the Brahmin. Has everyone heard that story? You heard it? I'm going to say it anyway. It's funny when people give class and they say, have you heard this? Have you heard that? I'm going to say it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Have you heard you're not this body? I'm going to tell you you're not this body. Wait till the curtain opens. So, Haribol. No? Just blew the conch. So Narada Muni was travelling and he came across a Brahmin. And the Brahmin said, "Oh Narada, you're going to be going to see Narayan very shortly. Jai Shishivara Gokulananda Shitranaksa Hanuman Shishikonintai Ki Jai. You're going to be going to see Lord Narayan very shortly. Can you please ask him when I'm going to get liberated?" He said, "Okay." Then he was walking and he saw a cobbler, and the cobbler asked him the same question. So then Narada Muni went to the spiritual world and he saw Narayan. And he said, I have a question. There's a Brahmin and a cobbler. They both want to know when they're getting liberated. So Lord Narayan said, well, the cobbler's going to get liberated in this lifetime. But the Brahmin, he's a dodgy character. I don't know. He's going to have to wait. Well, I don't know when he's going to get liberated. So Narada Muni was a bit confused. So Narayan said, well, next time you see them, they will ask you what I was doing. Just tell them I was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. So then Narada Muni went down and he saw the Brahmin. The Brahmin asked, "Oh Narada, did you see Narayan? What was he doing?" And Narada Muni said he was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. And the Brahmin said, "That's nonsense. That's ridiculous. How can he do that?" So immediately Narada Muni could understand that this Brahmin, he had no faith. Yeah. He was just into reading books and learning mantras and philosophy, but he had no real faith. So then Narada, he went to the cobbler. And then the cobbler asked, "Oh Narada, did you ask Lord Narayan when I'm getting liberated?" He said, "This lifetime." He said, "What was he doing?" He was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. And then immediately the cobbler started to weep. He said, "Oh, just see, my Lord is so amazing. He can thread an elephant through an eye of a needle." And Narada said, "Do you believe that?" Because Narayan just said he wasn't actually doing it. He said, "Yeah, of course I believe that." He said, "Just like I'm sitting underneath this banyan tree, and this tree is producing so many fruits, and within that fruit there's hundreds of seeds, and each seed is capable of producing a huge banyan tree. So how can't Krishna or Narayan thread an elephant through an eye of a needle? If he wants, he can thread 1,000,000 elephants through an eye of a needle, doing a somersault or something. You know, he can do anything he wants." So the cobbler, he had faith. He had faith that Krishna could do anything. So for him, Krishna's, like Prabhupada said, there was nothing uncommon for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he had this faith that Krishna could do anything. It wasn't just blind faith. And it wasn't sentimental faith either. Devotees' faith is backed up by scientific and philosophical understanding. And that is produced not just by reading books, it is produced by engaging in devotional service. the activity of Bhakti Yoga. So he understood, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya dakshena prakriti surate saracharam hetunainena kuntiya jagat viparvate. That this material nature is directly controlled by Krishna, and it is producing non-moving and moving living entities. And in this way, the cosmic manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So madhyakshena means that Krishna he's directly in control. There's no one that can say I'm directly in control. So this is a philosophical understanding, scientific. You see the stars, the universe, you see the mountains. There must be something. And then backed up with scripture. Then one's faith. That is the basis of our faith, right? Srila Prabhupada, there's a saying, isn't there? The books are the basis. So the philosophy is the basis for our faith to build. Because without that, then it will just be sentimental. So the cobbler could describe why he thinks Krishna was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. Not just sentimental. The non-devotees, they can believe blindly whatever they're told, right? NASA made everyone believe that they sent 4 men in a tin can, because that's what it was, a tin can, just a little high tech, that's all. They sent 4 men in a tin can to the moon and back, and everyone believes them. Why? Because they created this whole story, with the media and television. In those days, television was quite new, so people could very easily be fooled to think what they're watching is real. Whereas these days, it's a little bit more, people are a little bit more together with the internet, technology. You can't fool people so easily these days. So that they're just accepting blindly. The 4 men in a high-tech tin can went to the moon, which is further than the sun, and back. And there's so many reasons now that can say that they didn't do that. But people just blindly accept. But the devotees don't blindly accept. No. We understand that Krishna's got his Virata Rupa, and at the same time he's got his internal potency. Even Lord Brahma, the most intelligent living entity in the universe, whose body is made of pure intelligence, he was also bewildered, right? He was just thinking, this small boy, Krishna, who is he? Let me show him. So he stole the cows and the boys. And he was only away for a moment. And then when he came down, one moment was like a year. And what did he see? He still saw Krishna, and he still saw the cows, and he still saw the boys. They were still there. And that bewildered him even more, because he thought, well, hang about it. I've hidden them somewhere, so how can they be there? And that's when Krishna manifested his Vishnu forms. Everyone, the cows and the boys, they all turned into Vishnu. And it's described that those Vishnu forms weren't just a show. They were actually Vishnu, non-different. Because Krishna can manifest himself in infinite forms at the same time. But at the same time, he still saw Krishna looking for the cows and the boys. And he had this sweet in his hand. So he was holding the sweet, because when Brahma took the boys, they were having a picnic. And Krishna went to check the cows, because the boys heard the noise and they were a little worried. Krishna said, don't worry, you carry on eating, I'll go and check the cows, see if they're okay. So he was still holding this sweet And Brahma could see Krishna holding the sweet with his little lotus hands and his tiny lotus feet. So he was just a little boy. So this little boy, at the same time, he's manifesting this whole universe, maintaining everything. How can we understand that? It's only the devotees that can understand this. So then Lord Brahma, of course, he understood what he had done. And then he chanted this prayer, glorifying Krishna. So we can learn to see Krishna everywhere, in every aspect of Krishna's creation, in every point of our own lives, we can see Krishna. But the whole point is that is meant to help us develop our relationship with Krishna. This whole cosmic creation is here for that specific reason. So we can develop our love for Krishna. And the more we develop our love for Krishna, the more we will see all other living entities as as eternal parts and parcels of Krishna also. And this way the devotee develops compassion also. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the formula in this age. It's Harinam Sankirtan. Very easy. This is the only way to develop faith and to see Krishna. I've got to be careful what I'm saying. So Sankirtan has two aspects to it. One is personal purification, and the other one is to give Krishna to others. So the devotee understands these two things. So the more we develop our own internal Krishna consciousness, to that degree we're going to be inspired on a higher spiritual level, based on higher qualities like compassion, to give Krishna to others. And the more we give Krishna to others, the more Krishna in turn will come to us in the form of an intense desire to want to hear and chant his name, fame, activities and attributes and pastimes and hear about him. So in that way, Sankirtan is the prime benediction. There's nothing higher than Sankirtan in this age of Kali. So both aspects of Sankirtan has to be there. Internal purification and then giving Krishna to others. And in this way, people will naturally be attracted. So it's a win-win situation for everyone, really. Yeah. Chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the only way. So then we can see Krishna. One day we will see him face to face. And of course Krishna is very merciful. He's also come in the form of the Archa Vigraha, the deity form, which the Muslims don't agree with because they don't have that faith. But then as we can explain to them that this form isn't an ordinary form. Krishna's, this material energy, like I said before, is Krishna's energy. Chit Chakti transferred into Achit. So he can also be in marble if he wants. And when a devotee sees Krishna, the form of Krishna, he sees everything. He sees the whole universe as well. As it's explained here. Krishna, the deity of Krishna, he is the center of the universe. We don't really need to go into the Himalayas or the moon or Mars or wherever. We just have to come and see Krishna. He's here. This is the center of the universe. The Himalayas are here. Actually, I don't need to go to the Himalayas. That's just an anartha. But anyway, if Krishna desires, then maybe I will one day go. But the Himalayas are here. Right? He is complete. Everything is in him. What's that verse? Om Punam Punam. Yeah. What's the translation? Lost it. Complete. Yeah. 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 So everything is there, just complete. We don't need to go here and there, and everything's here. All we need to do is follow the instructions of the spiritual master, engage in our service, and become purified. Hare Krishna. Any questions?